Hi everyone, welcome LinkedIn, and if you're watching on our brand new YouTube channel too, a very big welcome to the first ever episode of The Biz Live. The Biz Live is streaming on a new technology on the platform LinkedIn. It's called LinkedIn Live, quelle surprise, and we have got some great guests in the show for you today. So stick around, we will be running through who we're meeting. You'll meet my co-producer, and also you'll meet our special guests shortly. Okay, so this season 1 is sponsored by DCW Group. We're enormously grateful to everyone who's not only tuning in today, as it were, but also to the team behind DCW. They launched a new product 2 weeks ago. It was a huge, rip-roaring success. It was the day of our pilot episode, which we did with General Sir Peter Wall here at Origin Workspace in the city of Bristol in the United Kingdom. So Dean and his team have sponsored the whole of season 1. So we have an enormous vote of thanks to you for helping us get this show up and going. Also, big thanks and big shout out to our technical team, production people. Mo and Ricky have been busy behind the scenes, setting up the cameras and all the lighting here at the studio. So without further ado, what is coming up today? Well, we're going to be talking about our theme, this week's theme, and it is the season premiere or episode 1. We're going to be talking about the talking point, which my colleague will introduce you to in a second. And if you are dialing in, as it were, using old parlance, if you are watching and you're taking part, then please take part. Please leave a comment in the chat. Network. You know, the origins of Evo is actually a networking company, and the Biz Live has sprung from that, and that's what you're watching today. So please network, introduce yourself into the chat, let us know your thoughts, and if you've got some questions for myself, my co-producer Sarah, or indeed our special guest today, more about that in a second, then please pop them in the chat. We have got time to ask them. So who's coming up in the show today? We're going to be welcoming AJITH Jayathrikarama, who is the founder of Las Iguanas. He founded the company back in the early 1990s with a £10,000 bank loan and grew it into an iconic business, and of course a restaurant chain of enormous note. And then a few years later he set up Turtle Bay. Don't need to say much more about that, you've probably been to one. It's an international business now. More about AJITH in a bit, but if you have got some questions, pop them in. And also after that we'll be meeting ALISON Edgar. She is the entrepreneur's godmother. She is a best-selling business author, and she is the real deal. Her black book makes mine, well, it puts mine to shame. She knows absolutely everybody, and she has been at the forefront of business for years, helping, supporting, mentoring, and is even an advisor to Number 10. So I would like to ask you to give a little round of applause or a little like. If you watch on YouTube, that little like, subscribe, and comment. I'd like to invite you to meet my co-producer and a very, very good friend of mine, Sarah Brooks. Hello there, Sarah. How are you doing?
Good morning, Jamie. Yes, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Great. Yeah, we're all set up and we're live streaming across the interweb. So we've got a theme, you know, based on the comments we had in our pilot a couple of weeks ago with General Sir Peter Wall. We decided we're going to have a weekly theme. So tell us a bit about that, please, Sarah.
So this week we're going to take a deep dive into the concept of entrepreneurship. What does it mean? What does it mean for society? How important is it to all of us? What is the entrepreneurial mindset? And does it thrive in the current climate? What kind of conditions do we need to stimulate that kind of thinking? So we'll be looking at that with two fabulous entrepreneurs, as you say, with Aj and Alison.
Great. Okay, thank you for that, Sarah. For those of you who don't know and didn't watch the pilot, Sarah and I run a networking company. She's been part of Only Connect for 13 years. In a previous business, she was a business development manager for a stadium-sized expo, and we've been working together at Evo for a good few months now. So it's really good to have you on the team, and now as a co-producer on the Biz Live. So talking of which, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't mention it. I've got the branded cup here, but the Biz Live is part of Evo Networking, and I'm really pleased to say, to announce live that we are opening 2 new groups. So if you watch outside of the UK, Evo is a membership-based business networking. We welcome visiting guests every week. There are meetings, 1 or 2 every single day. And we focus primarily on the southwest of England, currently online, and also Wales. So you heard it here first. We're opening a new group in Wales. It's full, the first group. The most recent member is Mark Colburn, MBE, the Olympic gold medalist, Paralympian from London 2012. He's completed that group. We're only another one. And also, we are opening a new online lunchtime group for the whole of the southwest of England. So again, you heard it here first. I'm really proud to say that, and it seems a fitting place to mention it during the season premiere of The Biz Live. And going back to you, Sarah, we've got a talking point each week. Tell us about this week's talking point.
So this week's talking point is, which book on entrepreneurship or by an entrepreneur really inspired you? What have you read in the past, or maybe you've actually been looking at some classic texts in lockdown to motivate you through the situation that we find ourselves in at the moment? So what book is it that has inspired you? Please pop it in the chat, and we will be sharing that throughout our broadcast today.
Great. Okay, well, look, it's a little farewell for you for now, but you're going to be in the background moderating.
Be on the chat. Yeah.
You're going to be moderating the chat as you did. I remember doing the pilot, which we only invited a certain amount of people to, and we did limited promotion so we could get things wrong, and I kind of did, but it all kind of worked out tickety-boo in the end. By the time I got to the comments to pick one out, it was up to something like 200 or something just when I started the interview with Peter Wall. So look, thanks very much, Sarah. We're going to see you in a little bit. And if you have got a question for either of our speakers, AJITH or Alison, please pop them in the chat now. We will be keeping to time today, and we will make sure that we get a chance to ask a bunch of your questions. Keep them short and simple, and if we really like them, we're going to bring them up on the screen using this newfangled interweb technology. Okay, Sarah, so bye for now. Enjoy the moderating. Thanks for being part of the team, and look forward to seeing you in about 15 minutes time. Okay, so back on me for just one moment. The show's not about me today, it's about entrepreneurship. I am an entrepreneur in the making, I would say, and hopefully the show will contribute to my journey. But we have a very, very special guest here today. Many moons ago, I met AJITH through friends. We had dinner together. Jump forward a few years to 2014, he took part in an arena event. At that point, he had launched his second restaurant chain. And I have to say, I think it's fair to say that there's probably two things that I've taken part in or organised where I really wish I'd videoed. And it was that interview, which I had a fireside chat at this arena in the UK with AJITH right at the beginning of another business. I wish I'd videoed it because it was gold. And AJITH tells it as it is. He's been there and done that. So we're going to bring him into the studio in just a moment. But let me just tell you a bit about him. So back in the early 1990s, he founded Las Iguanas. He used a £10,000 bank loan and then built that business into what you know it is today. And then jump forward to 2010, he started Turtle Bay, and what an adventure that has been. We'll be hearing about it with Aj now. Okay, so please give a thumbs up if you're watching. Let's see some comments. My gosh, there's so many already. Hello there, Tracy Carter. I also love good to great Jim Collins. Thank you for that. Tracy Carter there, the former managing director, talking about business leaders of a £40 million turnover company. Okay, AJITH. You nearly got usurped there by Tracy. It wasn't by design. A very special welcome. Please give some thumbs up if you're watching live. And if you're not watching live, give us some thumbs up for AJITH Jeff Wickmauer. Welcome to the biz. You are our very, very first guest. Thank you so much. Straight to the chase, AJITH. What was your earliest business deal and how young were you?
Oh, gosh. I remember growing up in Sri Lanka, and in the garden, we had lots of papaya, and they kept dropping. And no one was eating them. There was abundance of them. And I did put them on my bike on the back of it and went and sold it to a vendor. I guess that's the earliest memory I have. I think the second earliest one would be in my teenage years in the UK. My mum was changing her cooker. She couldn't get rid of it. It was lying on the hallway for a long time. And I remember cleaning out, putting it advert in the newspaper and pocketing the money. And then I started collecting lots of cookers and selling them. I guess those are my earliest memories.
You started collecting, did you say cookers?
Yes, so when somebody's refurbishing their house, they want to get rid of their cooker. So, I would go and collect it somehow and respray it and clean it up and sell it.
I think I didn't know that.
Is that entrepreneurship? I'm not sure.
At an early age, I think so. As I said, I'm on that entrepreneurial journey. I remember washing cars, leaving little flyers in a decade, which I won't mention, under the windscreen wipers saying, I remember it said, I am a schoolboy on my school holidays, please can I come wash your car for £1.50. So yeah, I think starting early, I think people get the taste for that sort of a deal, don't they? So look, we talked about your early days. There must have been an epiphany for you. I had to research what that word meant again, because it's a long time since I've heard it. But is there a defining moment for you, Aj, where you could say, this was a defining moment in my early business career?
I guess after graduation, doing my MBA, I started work in a firm in London. And I used, having been a student, attending lots of management meetings and brainstorming meetings were somewhat uncomfortable. And I used to look around my colleagues and think, my God, it's taken you long time to get you there. So there must be a different way. And I think my overwhelming desire was, if there was a moment, was I thought I wanted to work for myself. I thought I was better working for myself and helping others to do it rather than the other way around. So that's how I started Las Iguanas. I was in my mid-20s, 26.
Right.
I just thought, I want to go and do something.
And I noticed you slipped in there after I did my MBA. I mean, that's something else. I mean, where did you do your MBA, Aj?
I didn't do anywhere fancy. I did it in Sheffield. And the reason I mentioned that was I knew I wanted to be in business. And I had an economics degree. I didn't feel I was prepared. It was a middle of a recessionary period in the early 90s, when it's a bit like now, where the graduates are finding it incredibly difficult to find good jobs because, there simply isn't the jobs to go around. So the thing I felt was, in that moment, I just thought, I'm going to go back and spend a little bit more time and money making myself a bit more employable. And I did get employed. But then when I went into employment, I didn't find that the areas I was itching to be satisfied was being satisfied within that, certainly within that company, even though it was a great company. Mm-hmm. So I felt I need to go and do my own thing. And that's how I borrowed the money and, set up the business.
So that's, you mentioned the early 90s, presumably you're referring to Las Iguanas, is that right?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
I fancifully walked into the restaurant, I have to tell you now, in years gone by, and said, oh, my mate Aj set this up. I was doing that up until recently, as you do, just to, very proud, showing off on behalf of someone else, which is terrible. Anyway, and then I discovered that you exited like years beforehand, and they said, who? So tell me about that. You built this business with 10 grand. It was in the early 90s. It was a rip-roaring success, multiple sites. How many are there or were there when you exited? Did you exit? That's the question.
I exited in 2015.
Right.
It was the right bit of the economic curve I exited at. And then it had 24 sites.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. When I've been filming years gone by or done business meetings in different cities, it's a go-to place. It's a go-to place. And I particularly like the tortilla with chicken and cheese, just to let you know. That's top of my menu. So round about 2010, you set up Turtle Bay. So tell us about, let me go back to Las Iguanas. A big challenge for you in Las Iguanas and how you overcame it. How about you could share that with us?
The challenge was having thought about a market segment which no one was aware of, and convincing people around you that you have a good idea is often difficult. And the reason was, in early 90s, we haven't heard of nachos, we haven't heard of guacamole, avocados, or refried beans, or fajitas, or Latin music, or what have you. So there is a vision in your head where you think, no one's doing this, and I'm sure the public will love this. And then you go along with your fancy business plan and everything else, and often the decision makers are twice your age, and they sort of say, well, no one's going to understand how to say guacamole or avocado. And so all you're getting continually is saying it can't be done. It shouldn't be done. And I think the more, obviously, one of the things you learn is to listen very carefully. But it doesn't mean what you're hearing is always the right advice or the right guidance. And you sort of blindly follow your gut instinct that this will be popular, a combination of lovely Latin American food and lovely music, lovely interior, energetic people should be a winning formula. And you carry on, and that's what happens. I'm sure all entrepreneurs come along, come across this issue where you have a great idea. You think it's great because it's your idea for a start, but a lot of other people think, "Oh, I'm not entirely sure," because they can't have the leap of imagination. They haven't been their own mental journey to wait till you arrive at that point. I'm sure that this is a common theme amongst all innovative, creative products and businesses.
So you've got Las Iguanas you exited in 2015, I think you said. I know you're a straight talker. Dare I ask, and bear in mind you're being beamed across the interweb and it will be replayed on LinkedIn and on YouTube forevermore, hopefully. Are you able to share what your sort of exit strategy was or how much you took? I mean, are you comfortable sharing that, or is that sort of off the record?
Well, I didn't take all of the money, obviously, because I had other investors and founders. But the business gets sold for £89 million.
Wow. Yeah. £89 million. Oh, wow. Congratulations, Aj. That's and I love that. The entrepreneurs, I think, it's really the backbone of society, creating wealth, generational wealth for others, senior managers, people who come into the business, people who obviously acquire the business down the line. Well, congratulations, Aj. That's a number I didn't know. And thanks for sharing that. Throw out a curveball there off the piece. But okay, so Turtle Bay, I remember you telling me about it right at the very beginning. A couple of people, one person I know, a friend of mine was an early investor. And I remember seeing you in the Times, a really lovely photograph of you in the Times with a couple of your team members, and thinking, wow, you've done it again. It's taken off. Where's Turtle Bay now? Just so we can get a frame of reference. Where are we now? It's international, I know that.
Yeah, so we've got 42 sites and we're trading pretty well. We're across the UK, so we're doing well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So you're in fine fettle. And I was going to come to the big question about hospitality in a moment. And I'm sure if you've got a question for Aj, please remember to pop it in there. We're going to move on swiftly to viewer questions, Aj. But I remember, I think it was two summers ago, you helped me launch, it was another business, exhibition business, and you were there. We did an event together called Brexit and Business. And we had the Secretary of State for International Trade, Dr. Liam Fox MP, and you. And it was really, really interesting. I remember you talking about Brexit and the challenges ahead. And I'm thinking, gosh, this is really knowledge from somebody who's right there in the trenches in business internationally. And then, of course, having the counterpoint to a degree from the Secretary of State. And who could have thought back then that we would now be in the situation where hospitality, retail, jobs, businesses have been thrown a big curveball, and a bigger one as you could possibly imagine. And I wondered, you've built Turtle Bay. It's a success. I've really enjoyed going to the restaurants, having a drink. What's jumping forward to the current climate? How are things bearing up, and what would you say are the challenges that lie ahead for hospitality in general? Let's say focusing on the restaurant trade.
I think the hospitality in general. First, hospitality is incredibly innovative, and the people who work in it are incredibly adaptable to whatever the circumstances they get thrown at. So what's clear is the pandemic isn't going to last forever. There will be a sunny day one day. But during that process, the consumers and we will all change in the way we behave and what we want out of life, what we want out of entertainment, what we want out of restaurants. So yes, this is a problem right now, but things will get better. And so therefore, my objective is to keep going. You can only see barely a week ahead, but that's enough. Just go for that week, because you don't know what the next bit of rules or what else is going to be thrown at you. These things happen. Nobody plans for it. I think it's easy to blame everyone. It's easy to blame, but that's the reality. The reality is you can only control what you can control, which is what's in your four walls and how you serve your customers. And I think that applies whether you're in hospitality or anything else. So just carry on. just carry on.
Are you still in a growth phase? I remember when I last saw you, I think you'd recently opened up in Germany. Is that right? Are there any plans at the moment?
Obviously, we are not growing right now, because circumstances are incredibly difficult. But once things calm down and the economic situation is right, we will grow, I'm sure.
When you look back on what you've achieved so far, and I know you're an entrepreneur across many other businesses and investing, and there's so much more to you than, I can't just say just Las Iguanas and Turtle Bay, they're iconic restaurant chains. But if you were to sort of dial back a little bit, I think this is a familiar fireside chat question, is it, and talk to your former self. Well, let's just imagine there's lots of would-be entrepreneurs or people like myself who's on a journey with some businesses myself. What sort of tips would you give to people who are starting out in business, right at maybe they're into their first business, maybe into year one? Are there some general tips you could offer to people? I know that's a broad question, but coming from you, I think it would mean a lot.
I think it's a number of things. I mean, I can only go by my own experience. One of them is, have a sense of pace about you. Things move at a pace, and you got to set the pace, and you got to have a sense of urgency about you. Learn to be incredibly agile, because your idea and your offer and what you do every day need to change, because everything else around you is changing all the time. So yes, have some good rails to keep you in the right direction, but within that, learn to be agile. I think those are the two big things I would say. The next thing is just keep going. If you believe in it and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, keep going. Keep changing, keep going. Not much wisdom there, but that's the truth.
No, believe me, much as when you spoke back in 2014, I was listening very, very intently. And as I said, you're one of two people out of hundreds who I really, really wish we'd videoed. And it's so nice to have you here today. Look, we've still got some time for some questions. We have a talking point today, which is about books and the theme of entrepreneurship for this week. And before we go to some questions from Sarah and those who are chiming in, as it were, over the interweb, I wondered, is there a particular book by an entrepreneur, or let's say about an entrepreneur, which you would recommend or has inspired you? Is there sort of one particular, it could be an audio book as well?
I think I've read a lot of books, and I think I'm finding it difficult. I thought about this question when you mentioned it earlier. I think that Good to Great by Jim Collins, Why Some Companies Go From Good to Being Great, is a really worthwhile book to read. But I also read, I think it's an unofficial autobiography of Steve Jobs, and I think that's an incredible tenacity and vision to turn Apple around and to create Apple. So there are lots of books. I wouldn't say one book, but I'm even inspired by reading, Alec Ferguson's book on management. So I think that there is no one definitive book I can possibly name, but I think each one of these business books or people's journey, books around people's journeys, have something to contribute to your own thinking. And I think that's valuable.
Well, to what's been valuable is having you here. It's not over yet, because I'm going to ask you to stick around, if that's okay, for another 5 minutes or 10 minutes, Aj, if that's all right. We're going to take some questions from those at home. And I have to say, for those of you who've not met Aj, I'm so inspired by your success, by your hard work, your inspiration to others, and also, your friendship over the years. And at some points as well, I remember coming over for a cup of tea and you offering me some really, really important advice at the genesis of my Only Connect business, that networking company. And I'm forever grateful to you, Aj. And it's so nice. It feels very apt that you're the first guest on what we hope will be a weekly show moving forwards. We've certainly booked 3 seasons. And talking about entrepreneurs, very pleased to say I had a message today from Rob Law, MBE, who's going to be our next guest here in the studio next Tuesday. So Rob Law, MBE, the creator of the trunk and CEO of that business, and obviously he was on the BBC News just 2 days ago talking about the travel industry, and obviously, you know, he's a manufacturer as well with exports, so that should be interesting. So Aj, I'm going to just bring in Sarah Brooks now, who has been diligently referring to the chat, which is live. If you're watching on a restream, Sarah is the co-producer of the show, and this is the Beers Live. So Sarah, have you got some questions for Aj, please?
I have. So the first question is from Greg Cooper. And his question is, if you were in charge, what would be your strategy to reduce the spread of COVID and keep the hospitality sector alive?
What a great question. What a great question. What would my strategy be? I think the first thing all businesses, regardless if it's hospitality or not, requires is some degree of certainty. And in a very uncertain time, certainty is a highly valuable commodity. And what we are not necessarily getting right now is this level of certainty. I'm not being political, I'm not being critical. That's what I feel at the moment. So therefore, certainty is a high value item in a time of crisis. And in fact, some of the leadership qualities that is required of any business person is to be able to guide your team and your people around you through a crisis with calm heads and good thinking and good judgment. And the key words are thinking and good judgment. And the judgment is not all about science, and thinking is not all about science. So therefore, it's easy to follow the data but end up in the wrong location. I found that in business too. You can follow the data on the P&L or the account, but you will end up in the wrong location. So therefore, as a leader, you've got to think about what is it I'm trying to achieve. So if I was in this position, what I would soon, having spent trillions and trillions of pounds, quite rightfully to keep the population and the businesses going, and given no pot of money is forever, I would encourage everyone to learn to live with it. You know, it's not ideal. People are dying, but it is still the 24th ranking killer in the UK, number of deaths by a particular disease. So therefore, learning to live with it. Because fundamentally, in a Western economy, locking people up and telling them what they can't do, and having wardens walking around and making ordinary people feel semi-criminal is not necessarily the right thing to do. So the best way to do this is to learn to live with it. And that's a responsibility for every citizen in the UK or wherever they are. You've got to learn to live with it. And I don't know if I answered your question there, Sarah. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. That's what we want, your opinion. Absolutely. Thank you for that. So I've got another question here from Dave Perkins. What's the next dream for you? Do you see yourself founding further restaurant brands?
I never want to say never. I haven't thought about it, if that's a question. I am very much a completer and finisher. I need to do whatever the project I'm in, but I am involved with other businesses. But in terms of full-time devotion to another brand, I haven't thought about it. But I do have other ideas in my head, but whether I will do them or not is depending on the people around me and what I want to do myself.
Okay, Sarah, we've got time for another 2 or 3 questions, if that's all right with you, Aj, as well.
Okay. So how about this from Emma Melrose? What does AJITH do to stay grounded in the present?
Oh, that's very good. I did quite a bit, actually. I go for walks. I've got 3 dogs. I've got 2 girls. I go for bike rides. That's the kind of thing. Go to restaurants. The usual kind of thing. Nothing particularly exciting, but really grounding.
Okay. What else have we got there, Sarah? Or maybe you've got a question yourself.
So yes, so Charlotte Gazard asks, what tips would you give businesses to recruit and retain quality staff in the current climate? Are you recruiting? What are you doing about recruitment? I'll add that in there as well.
Yeah, so we are recruiting at the moment. And I have always used some form of psychometric testing to recruit all of my staff, including hourly paid staff, waiting staff, or whatever. And the reason I do that is I just want to get another dimension about what kind of how to pull teams together, because no one is blessed with all the answers about reading people. Of course, as leaders, we have to read people and understand what makes people tick. So for me, I use lots of tools to help me recruit really good people, and you don't need to spend a fortune. 30-40 pounds even for a simple test, as long as you know that you're either confirming or denying your instinctive feelings through interviews and so on and so forth. So that's one of them. I think recruitment, depending on the business, is probably one of the key decisions you will make in your business career. Because if you get the person wrong, you probably get the activity or the project wrong. So it's a forever thoughtful process that needs to be on all the time. What was the second bit of the question?
So I was asking, on top of that, are you actually recruiting? And you said you are still recruiting.
We are still recruiting, yeah. And the reason we are recruiting is we have a natural level of attrition in our sector. People start, for a few months or a year, they move on to do other things, get another job or travel. Or travel's less likely these days, but that kind of thing. And more importantly, I think this is a good time to recruit for good people, because lots of people are about to lose their job or have lost their job, and it's a good time to keep recruiting. And I think those are the fundamental reasons why we are recruiting we carry on recruiting, because you need to project for the time ahead.
Thanks, Aj. I think we've got time for a couple of quick more questions, if that's okay with you, Ajith. And also, thank you for sticking with us. For those of you who don't know, Ajith yesterday developed a bit of a cold. It hasn't developed into anything, but we decided just to play it safe. And Ajith very kindly agreed to continue and work from home today. So thank you very much indeed. So, okay, I think time for a couple more questions, Brooks. Let's keep them quite quick if we can. We'll welcome our next guest.
So next one from Tony Stedman. Do you think there will be a longer term positive impact for restaurants and bars from the current climate? And will it lead to more of a European eating out culture?
I think that's a very thoughtful question. I think that is the $1 million question that we're all trying to answer. I think Tony is right in his implied direction of his question. I think it will lead to a more calmer society. I think the public authorities will learn to love outside seating, for instance. I think people will learn to have a much more varied ways of going out, instead of everyone piling in on a Friday or Saturday night. They can now go out Wednesday night, Tuesday night, whenever they want. I think the balance between working from home and going to the office is going to change. I think that's going to change the way we socialize and engage with restaurants and the hospitality sector. In fact, everything we do. So the idea of grabbing a sandwich and going to your next meeting might become the thing of the past, because we can do these things through live streams and so on and so forth. So I think the restaurants have to adapt to those changes within that consumer base. And I'm pleased to say we're adapting to those really well at the moment.
Great.
Perfect. So I've got another one here, Jamie, from Mark Dolman. Home working has changed how we work. Do you think the future of being employed has changed forever?
I can't necessarily say it's changed forever, but it certainly has had a big impact. Even for me personally, I have never been a huge fan of being present at work, because one of the motivations for me starting my own business was I can work from wherever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. But I don't think even I apply those rules to some of my staff, like accountants or marketing people. They did turn up in the office. But at the moment, we are managing perfectly well by working remotely and getting together maybe a couple of times a week. And I think everyone seems to be happier. But nonetheless, I think there are sort of unknown things that we are not aware of yet. Do people have the right conditions to work from home? Who pays for their insurance? What kind of equipment do they need? Is all their comfort and safety being met while working from home? So I think things will change. But I think what COVID has done is to accelerate all the things that was probably happening, but weren't happening at a huge pace. So things have just got faster, and I think eventually we'll be better for it.
Brilliant.
Great. Okay, so I think, if that's okay with you, AJITH, do stick around for a few minutes because I want to introduce you to our next guest. We're going to cut back to her in a second, but can you see Alison Edgar there? Have you met Alison before?
Mm-hmm. Hi, AJITH.
Alison's here in the studio, and as you know, is the entrepreneur's godmother. I don't know if she's related to you or is she your godmother? I don't know. Anyway, it's great to introduce you again, and just wanted to say thank you very much indeed to our sponsor, DCW Group. I want to say thank you to Mo and Ricky, who've come in here extra early to build the set today and get the lighting and the cameras right, and therefore production people. And of course, I have to say a big thank you again to AJITH Chair Rekarama. And I do want to ask you, if you were to offer one bit of inspiration, I know this is a curveball again, but one bit of inspiration for people. You talked about things being positive, things will change. For those who are in business, seeking to get a job, looking to get re-employed or found their own company, what would that be, AJITH? What bit of inspiration could you give us as an entrepreneur who's at the top of their game?
I think the only inspiration I can give right now is to say things are never bad as they seem, and they were never good as they were. So it's somewhere in the middle. So therefore, don't let too many things put you into a negative frame of mind, or nor should you allow short-term wins as recording as the biggest win in the world. So it's somewhere in the middle. And if it is in the middle, you've got to just keep going and be diligent and keep going forever. It's like a marathon that never ends. So it's not a short burst. Hope that helps.
Thanks so much, AJITH. That's really good. What can I say? But a big thank you for taking part in the season premiere. We've gone all American, episode 1, season 1 of The Biz Live. And if you are just tuning in, which of course is an antiquated term from days of old, it seems, nobody's tuning in now. They're clicking a button and joining us. And if you're watching the read stream, which goes live straight away on LinkedIn, hopefully you're going to be one of the many thousands of people who are going to watch this either on LinkedIn or up there in our brand new YouTube channel of The Biz Live. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe. It's a brand new channel. We want to get to that magic 1,000 subscriber mark from today, 0 to 1,000. So AJITH, feel free to stick around if you want. But I'm going to now just come back to Sarah just to remind us about our talking point and also the theme for this week. And then we're going to be meeting our next very special guest. But AJITH, from all of us, a huge thank you from us to you. And a fond farewell for now. Cheers, my friend. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
So cheers. Okay, so Sarah, lots and lots of stuff for us to think about there.
Yes.
Was there a particular point that AJITH made which kind of really spoke to you? I know I've seen Alison's Woodhead's comment there about pace and agility and so forth. What for you was a special moment there, speaking with AJ?
Well, I am a big believer in you can control only what you can control. You can't control things that are not on your, they're not on in your inbox. You can't do anything about that. But also the idea about, reading books, being inspired by other people, listening to other people like AJITH who've been there and done that and have overcome it, and the resilience that they've needed, but also the belief. And it does help to ask other people to be involved in networks, to talk and collaborate and, not bury your head in the sand, and always seek to speak to others and read around the areas that you need help and inspirational.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And can you remind us again of the theme for this week and the talking point?
So the theme is entrepreneurship. So we're talking about that with AJITH and ALISON. What is the entrepreneurial mindset? We haven't quite gone there yet. Maybe we can do that with ALISON. And the talking point is books that have inspired you throughout your life, your journey, your business journey. And I've got a few here that have been accumulating in the chat. So Alison Woodhead has said Simon Sinek, The Power of Why and The Infinite Game. And also she suggests Glorious Rock Bottom by Bryony Gordon, which is about resilience, which I've not read that one yet, so that sounds good. Tracy Carter says Daring Greatly by Breen Brown. Victoria Place, Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. Fenella Hemus, Great Leaders Have No Rules by Kevin Cruz. And Jamie Marks, Lead Like a Guide by Christopher Maxwell. So lots there to think about, and maybe some of those resonate with you, or you would like to read them. I certainly interested in some of those books.
Good stuff. So we're here now in the studio. If you're just dialed in, I keep ducking around the word tuning in, haven't I? Because it's not tuning in. We're not on a goggle box any longer. We're on the interweb. And just to go through and say a big thank you to people like Sanjay Singh there. He's a media professional, runs Life Media UK. Sarah is absolutely glowing today. Very good lighting. And of course, thank you to all of those who've been contributing today and asking questions. Keep them coming in, because as you can see, our next guest is none other than, please give us some thumbs up. There's some comment buttons there. If you're watching live, give us some thumbs up, because we are now going to say a very special hello to our second ever guest on the show and our first ever studio guest here at Origin Workspace. Big shout out to the team. So if you are just coming in now, this is the Biz Live. My name is Jamie Breeze. I won't want that microphone again. If anything can go wrong, it went wrong. It could be today, but so far we're keeping, to use AJITH's parlance, we're keeping everything on the rails. So Alison, what can I say but a big welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jamie. It's an absolute pleasure.
So take us back in time. Okay, tell us a bit about who Alison Egger is. Who was she and what has she become?
So she's the little girl from the top of the hill in Cloudbank. So I've kind of stuck to my roots. I'm obviously very Scottish. I left school at 16 because I was later in life diagnosed as dyslexic. So I think that I've always had to work really hard for everything that I've done. And I've moved into hospitality. I never, the word entrepreneur, literally, hadn't even hit my radar. Having a business, well, that was either for the trades guys or the really posh people with loads of money. People like me didn't have businesses. So I got a job as a hotel receptionist, but that really helped me. And it's interesting, we're talking about entrepreneurial mindset. A lot of people, they kind of struggle, they hold themselves back, don't they? They're frightened, they're quite scared of taking new challenges, doing new things. And I worked internationally. Again, it's really interesting listening to AJITH, because one of the things that's really got me through the last 6 months is Turtle Bay bottomless brunches. And when AJITH was talking about being agile, really doing things differently, I think the reason that Turtle Bay's been really successful over the last 6 months is he was really agile, and everybody was talking about the bottomless brunches. So again, for me, I kind of fell into business really by chance because I came from hospitality. And I think, again, another point that I just made, if you look after your customers and if you look after people, they'll look after you. And it's always just about, I use the phrase, just bring your A game and do your best every day. And if you bring your A game and do your best, that's the best you can do. And I think that's the rule that I live with. And I've always been quite positive. And I think one of my things is positivity. And through lockdown, there's been a lot of negativity, there's been a lot of fear, and I've just kind of taken it as the entrepreneur's godmother's job is just to be positive and help people to get there, really.
We're connected on not only LinkedIn but also on Facebook, and I've noticed was it 3 days ago, a week ago, you didn't summit at Mount Snowdon, and then you went back, was it 3 days later, to go and summit? That's determination for you. And I haven't introduced Alison in the way that I should do. She is the entrepreneur's godmother. She is a best-selling author. She's an advisor to Number 10. She has mentored more young and emerging entrepreneurs you can imagine. And as I mentioned, if you've just come in, I mentioned her black book is like second to none. I'm sure you won't mind me saying this. A while ago, I was looking for a speaker in another business for a big stadium-sized business event. And I said, I think he said, how about Facebook? And I went, do you mind me going down this line? You know what I'm going to say? I won't use names. I won't use names. Is that all right? Yeah. Going off piece to the script here. And I thought, how about Facebook? Yes. Yeah, that would be a crowd pleaser and something relevant and timely and all the rest of it. And I was introduced to, let's just say, the marketing director of Facebook, Europe, Middle East and Africa as a result of that. And as a result of that, they flew over and gave a keynote presentation on the main stage, which Mo and Ricky here from production people have been doing all of this for us, were sort of engineering for us and putting on. And then they did a keynote, a workshop on using Instagram for business as well. It's incredible. I think, I don't want to quote, I can't quote, but I think it was the first time Facebook had done a kind of a keynote in the southwest of England, if you're watching from abroad. So that was incredible. So, and it's your contact book, and it is the porridge bowl which keeps overflowing and giving. How have you made so many contacts?
Again, I'm me. So what you see with me, Jamie, you've known me for years. What you see is what you get. There is no other side of it. And I love people. And because I love people and I'm positive, people are positive back to me. And again, it's really interesting because obviously I come from the world of sales, and sometimes people are they're cagey with their connections, aren't they? They're quite, what were you going to do for me? Whereas by me introducing you to the head of marketing at Facebook, what that did was the thousands of people that were at that event learned new things that helped their business and their business be sustainable or make sales or make profit. And that's what the entrepreneur's godmother does. It's somebody that's influential in an organization or a business. And that's why I do it, not to get brownie points, because people don't really know what I do behind the scenes. Obviously, I'm quite vocal in what I do on LinkedIn and on Facebook. I'm climbing mountains, I'm losing weight, I'm doing whatever. But there's a lot of stuff that you don't see behind the scenes, and that's where I get the real, that's what makes me drive and makes me tick.
So you talk about helping people there, and I know for a fact, because I've interfaced with them in some way, and sometimes very successfully actually. So big thank you from me and all my team in various businesses to you. Talk about those young entrepreneurs. There's big names you've worked with, some of the most successful sort of people on Dragon's Den you've taken under your wing at a very young age.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot, like the Dragon's Den winners, the Apprentice winners. I've got one in there, and young. I'll give you an example. Ben Towers. So for those of you who don't know who Ben Towers are, they really have to Google Ben Towers. But I met Ben at Entrepreneur of the Year Award final. So we were through to the final thing. We're at the RBS building in London. And, I was a new entrepreneur in my late 40s. And Ben was there and he was 15. And we became...
How young?
He was 15 and I was 40-something or other. And we were both shortlisted for the finals. And I met him, and it looked like he was wearing his dad's suit. It was really tight and fit. And do you know what? We're best of friends. Simon Crowthers is another one of mine, multi-million-pound businesses. Jordan Dakin, Alana. And it's really interesting because I don't know everything about business. I don't think anybody does. Even when we were listening to AJITH, there's being agile and being fast to move. And at the moment, we all have to be quick. Because if you're not moving quickly, you're not moving, and that's where you get into trouble. It's like you start to get stuck in the treacle, don't you? And that's where working with the young entrepreneurs, they bring so much to my party as well. And it's like, we are just brilliant friends. We call ourselves like the misfits, because if we go out, it's like I'm their mother, but we just get on really well. And their knowledge feeds my knowledge. And I would say one of the things with entrepreneurism and running your own business, it can be the loneliest planet on the world, which is why what you do with Evo is incredible, because we all need a support network. And, whether it's support network who run Facebook or who run multi-million-pound companies, it doesn't matter. It's having that support network that I think helps you get through to the other side.
I can't stop smiling, and I'm always like that with you, and you know that. It's the wrong word to use, infectious energy, but Alison has an incredible energy, and and it's inspiring as well. I mean, you've inspired me on a personal level. Just back in November, December time, you know, you began a different journey, a personal journey, which maybe we haven't got time to talk about today. Perhaps you'll come back and tell us about that, because that in itself is literally is a marathon.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that personal journey is actually linked to the new book. So I wrote the first book, which is this book here, Secrets of Successful Sales. Which,
sorry, what was that again, please, Alison?
Secrets of Successful Sales. And the book was written because there used to be government funding that would help small businesses, and I would be able to work with them. They would get government funding. It was a win-win. But when they pulled the funding, the people that need me most are the startups and the micro businesses, because they don't know how to sell. And if you don't sell, you don't have a business. Right. But if you've got no money and you need to learn to sell, how can I do that and still run a sustainable business myself? So as a dyslexic author, like really pushing that through was really tricky. I mean, it was one of the hardest times ever. And I tried to cut every corner. Well, again, a ghostwriter, I tried to do everything rather than write that book. And again, it's a bit like a personal journey, the weight loss journey. You know, you try to do everything rather than the hard work it takes to get there, you know. Yes. So what happened as a result of this book, I was getting messages from people that were using it in their real life. So, I've negotiated on a house and I saved money, or I get on better with my partner. And it was all these people that I thought it was really weird why they were picking the book up in the first place. Really, if you're in business or sales, you would pick that book up. Mm-hmm. But if you're not, why would you read that book? It confused me. But I thought, I have to write a book about how everything is sales, really. You know, so losing weight is all about sales. Believe it or not, running a marathon, it's because you're selling to yourself. Right. And coming back to, you know, the theme about the entrepreneurial mindset, that's where I do think it is fixed and growth mindset. And we teach ourselves to think, oh no, I can't lose weight, no, I can't run, I can't do this, I can't do that. But actually, the most successful people have got a growth mindset. And even if they start, I mean, you were there at the start of the journey. When I started to run, I did Couch to 5K, and week number 1, I had to run all of 1 minute. All I had to do was run a minute, and I couldn't do it. And a lot of people would sit down and go, right, I can't, well, I'm not built to run, or I've got bad knees, or I've got this, or I can't do that. Whereas week 1, I sat on the pavement and I broke my heart, and I broke it on a Facebook Live, more or less. And I thought, right, I'm going to reset that week until I can do it. And then that went from Couch to 5K to 10K to half a marathon, and now I've climbed Mount Snowdon. I didn't run that one, Jamie, but I did get to the top and back down again.
That was on Monday, wasn't it?
That was last Monday.
Last Monday, yeah. Congratulations. Yeah. I mean, you know, you lost a staggering amount of weight, and and inspired me as well, you know, and it may have also had something to do with, you know, starting a new show after a few years off the telly. But for me, it's been hugely inspiring, both back in when we had that conversation back in December. So look, I'm going to jump forwards a little bit, because I see you a lot in the media as well. I know, for example, I see quite a bit on the BBC network.
Yeah.
Really important to emphasise that network BBC business news from Salford, or offering business advice. Yeah. So I feel very, very touched that you've come onto our, well, actually potentially global reach. Depends what algorithms happen with LinkedIn and YouTube. But you know, it's really, that is the pinnacle, surely, for an expert to go on to probably one of the best regarded, top 5 regarded news shows in the world. You know, the business on BBC One, on network news, not just limited to a region. Now, wrong with that. How did that feel for you?
So again, I think coming back to mindset, I always believed that's what I wanted, you know. And again, we've been listening to what people's books are, Simon Sinek, Find Your Why, all that kind of stuff. I've got to grow my profile. It's really important to me, because the higher the profile, the more people that I can help.
Yes. So
you don't just like go from zero to hero to get on to BBC Breakfast News or BBC News Channel. You know, you've got to grow your profile, and it's a step at a time. Get something regional, then move it up. And again, you know, you've been amazing for me. So you say the great things that we got our mutual love going on here. You say what I've done for you, but you know, you don't mention the great things, the great people that you've introduced me to for the TV journey. That, you know,
we would high five, but we're
high five,
socially distancing. Okay, so you know, I've got one more question from the house, if that's okay. How are you on time?
Yeah, you've got me.
How are you on time? Hope you're okay, because we've got some questions. If you have got a question for Alison Egger, please remember she is the sales expert. She's the entrepreneur's godmother, and she is a best-selling author too. In fact, let's tease. I understand you've been teasing me. There's some good news coming up. Is that right? without a date.
Massive news coming up. Biggest news I could. Again, I have to repeat back. I was brought up in a high-rise council flat in Clydebank, which is one of the roughest areas. Oh God, now I feel really bad coming from Clydebank. I love Clydebank, by the way, but it's not the most affluent of areas. So the announcement is something that I've dreamt of from when I was a child. I mean, it's huge. It's the biggest thing that can happen in this country, and I can't mention it.
But is it a second appearance next season in the studio?
That's what it is. I'm hanging out with you again,
Okay.
Jamie.
Okay, what's your best advice for entrepreneurs, would-be entrepreneurs, those who are watching on playback on LinkedIn Live or on YouTube? What's your best advice? Give us some tips.
Okay, I'll do it quick fire.
Please do. We've got questions coming in on the chat.
Is your idea a chocolate teapot? So you might think, oh, that's a really great idea. And it's interesting again with AJITH, and it's like, oh, you know, this guacamole stuff, and do the research. So you might think it's a brilliant idea, but other people might think it's a chocolate teapot.
Right.
Also, know your pricing. So many people start businesses, but they don't know how to make money, right? And I love the tech sector, but a lot of the tech sector are like, oh yeah, we just get loads of investment. But that's sales as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't keep just spending money. You have to learn to sell. So that's one of my top tips, really. And your pricing, know the P&L. It sounds really corny, because if you watch shows like Dragon's Den, they get roasted on the numbers. But I work with so many businesses and they don't know the numbers. And if you don't know your numbers, how do you know how to make money? And if you don't make money, you don't have a business.
Right, okay, I get that. I've got to ask you something, it's off piece, but you've always been in pink, you know, every photo, or every TV appearance, every show I've ever seen you on. What's the pink? Is it sentimental? Is it personal?
Oh, Jamie,
it's the cover of your
I can't believe you didn't know this story, right? Okay, I'll make it really quick. So I'd been invited for the first time to go to number 10. Right, so I'm off to number 10, and you do the research like anything. You're like, right, who goes? What do they wear? You know, you get the picture. And I looked at this picture, and it was winter, so I'm going in December. It was something like the 8th of December, and I'm like, I'm just wearing like a black jacket, and we're like, nobody stands out in that picture. Mm-hmm. Not in my watch, because why would you blend in when you can stand out? It's part of your marketing strategy. So I'll pop along to Debenhams, and again, you know, it's really interesting having lost weight, because I can actually shop in mainstream stores now. Before I had like to go to certain shops, and I went and I thought, I need a new coat that's going to stand out. And the first one, or the only one that was there, was pink. Yeah. So people go, do you love pink? I'm like, no, why would you blend in when you can stand out? So that's the story of the pink.
And at number 10, and for those watching from abroad, she means number 10 Downing Street, which is the official home and residence of the English Prime or British Prime Minister. Okay, Sarah Brooks, are you ready? I'd like to bring you in for some questions, if you like.
No problem.
I want to look at that other book in a moment as well. So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about what's going on in the chat, and have we got time for a couple of questions?
Yes.
Alison, please.
We've got lots of questions coming in for Alison. Hi, Alison, my fellow Snowdon summiter. We did it in the same month, didn't we? So good for us. So here's a question from Maria Allen. What was it that inspired you to become successful and choose what you did?
Okay.
I think success has always been important for me, and again, I think it's coming from humble beginnings, that maybe it is a chip I've got on my shoulder. I just, you know, I think it's important as well. Although we came from really humble beginnings, I had a brilliant mum and dad. I mean, we had no money, but like they taught me to believe in myself. Mm-hmm. So I think it's always I like to just go the next step. I'm never satisfied. I like to, you know, more, faster, higher. And again, is that nature? Is it nurture? I'm not quite sure, but I think I've always feel like I've got a point to prove as well.
Okay, it's a good question. Thank you for that, Maria. Sarah, give us some more questions if you can.
Yes. Mark Dolman asks, if you had to start again today, Alison, what would you not do again? And what are the top 3 actions to start up a business that you would focus on?
What would I not do? I wouldn't, I'm a bit on the spot. I wouldn't employ somebody that I used to work with as my manager. So I employed very early doors an ex-manager, an ex-colleague of mine. I would not do that. I work really well with young people. I think what I've learned, not only do I work really well with young entrepreneurs, but my team are young. So I take on young people, I mentor them, and I help change them. And what was the other 3 tips?
There we go.
3 actions to when you start up a business. What would you focus on? The 3 actions.
Definitely having, again, it's interesting because I'm looking at setting up a social enterprise to do some give back. So I'm going through the process myself again. So what are the costs? What do you need to sell? How are you going to make money on it? And how are you going to, it's sales, literally sales and marketing, I'd say, are the fundamentals. Also, why are you doing it? And what are your mission, your vision, and your values? So say that again.
That is really good.
Your mission, your vision, and your values. So for me, the mission statement of Sales Coaching Solutions is, when it's delivered correctly, sales and customer service is exactly the same thing. The vision, and the vision sort of changes, but the vision has always been that I'll be the Adele of sales training. I want to fill Wembley Arena, like people being inspired by my teachings. And then the values, we're always honest, we're ethical, and we know that we're never going to win everything. But if you're honest and you make a mistake, then that's okay. So I think the values are really important as well.
Thank you, Sarah. What else have we got there?
Well, just specifically, Adam Rook wants to know about the current climate. What tips would you give to business adapting their approach right now?
So specifically for Adam Rook, son of Jill, definitely young people. So obviously Adam runs the professional apprenticeship. So to me, if we look, there is a big focus at the moment on young people, getting them back into work, the Kickstarter program. So I just think keeping that focus on, grow your own, bring your own. And, we look at back in the old days, like the 80s. Look at the apprenticeships on the shipyard. So obviously I come from the shipyards, and that was the norm. Like most people, like from where I went, didn't go to university. They went in and they got an apprenticeship and they got the trade and they worked up from blue collar to white collar. And I just think it's really focusing on helping young people. There's a bit of a trend here.
Okay, Sarah, I think we've got time for just one last quick question. What have you got for ALISON? And
okay, from Victoria Place, what were the biggest hurdles you had to overcome when growing your business?
I didn't know anything about business. I think that was the first hurdle. So I think, I talk about these things now, but it didn't always come naturally to me. I think really having tools like Xero was really, really important to me so that I could visually see what was going on in the business. I think just getting up every day, and again, I'll feed it back into the book side of things. So every day that you wake up. So again, a lot of it's the psychology. So the book that I picked was Steve Peters, The Chimp Paradox.
This is the talking
that's
point.
The psychology side of things.
So Steve Peters,
okay. Because again, if you look at the psychology, what happens is, what you think then goes to how you feel. And then that goes through to how you behave. So I talk about in the morning, people say, why are you so buoyant? Why are you so up? Because when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that happens is I have a really brilliant song. So at the moment, the Alexa plays, or any other tool, it plays the Beatles' Here Comes the Sun. Brilliant. So then I wake up and I just think, today's going to be a great day. So when I get up and get dressed, I feel brilliant. I'm like, yes, I'm going to seize the day. And then I behave really positively, and then that feeds in, and then people will say, "Oh, you've done this, that's great," or "This has happened," or "You've changed this." And so I think it's really that mindset. And he talks a lot about the fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
A lot of people at the moment they're freezing because they don't know, and they're anxious and they're worried. And I don't just mean business owners or entrepreneurs. I mean people in general. And some people are, they're just kind of given up, really, and other people are fighting, and I think that's part of the entrepreneur mindset. And I know I spoke a lot about young people, but I support all ages of people.
Yes.
And one of the things that's been really interesting, there was a girl my age, in her 50s, that got made late redundancy, and she was really down, she was struggling, and I had a wee call with her and I said, look, just treat it like a sale. You've got my book, just treat everything like the sales process. Oh, Jamie, she landed the best job in the world, a dream job, not just any job. So again, I think that it doesn't matter what age you are. You can start a business at any age. You can change your job at any age, and it's tough.
Yes.
But it is at the moment. It's fight. You know, you've got to get in there and really give your best shot every single day.
Well, look, what can I say, Alison? I think we've had another great chat. There's never been a phone call that I've had, or a video chat, or a meeting one-to-one, or anything where I've not felt sort of infused and positive, and really good to face another challenge. You are the living embodiment of it, whether it's weight loss and climbing mountains this week, to knocking on the door at number 10. One of the great entrepreneurial advisors of our times. Alison, it's really, really good to have you here, and I think we're going to just wrap things up now. So what I'm going to do is just ask for you at home, if you're interested in finding out more, then please add me on LinkedIn. My name is Jamie Breeze. That's BRWSE. We'll make sure you get an invite to future episodes. And please stay around for our final few messages. Thank you. Okay, so the Biz Live, the end of episode 1, season 1, the premiere. What can I say but a big thank you to everyone. Thank you to the team at Origin. Thank you to our very special first ever guests, AJITH Jayavrika, and of course, Alison Edgar. If you've enjoyed today, then please do give us a thumbs up. If you're watching later on, still give us a thumbs up. You can keep commenting in the reposting, which LinkedIn will do very shortly. We're right at the beginning of our entrepreneurial journey with the Biz Live, and I hope that you will join us again soon. And talking of soon, Sarah and I are very lucky enough to announce today that our next in-studio guest, safety permitting, will be Rob Law, MBE. He is the creator, the innovator, and of course the inventor of the trunkie. If you don't know what the trunkie is, you've obviously not been to an airport in the last 15 years. It's the ride-on children's luggage. And he was on the BBC News just a few days ago talking about the economy and manufacturing and so much more. He is a wonderful, humble guy who's overcome some incredible challenges. He has a new book out, and I really recommend that you have a read of that before next week's show. It will be Tuesday at 11:30 here at the Biz Live in the city of Bristol, in the United Kingdom, streaming live on LinkedIn and, of course, on the YouTube channel. So again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to Mo and Ricky from Production People. Thank you for the team here at Origin Workplace for giving us a studio. Thank you to my co-producer, Sarah. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for not only coming along today, networking, connecting, offering good advice and brilliant, salient, on-the-point questions. And we will absolutely see you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. We'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.